Acknowledging your success is motivating. The wind under your wings is for you. The time in the future when the bounce is seen. Your success in each phase gives you. With the courage to proceed, let's look closer at the first sign. You're asking a more thoughtful question. Questions that demonstrate the quality of your life's quality is determined by your questions. When I was a young guy, I used to question why I had to put in such hard effort. Why can't I take those breaks? My queries didn't go me very far. Motion akin to that of a rocking chair, but no progress. But then changed and started to ask how I could improve my ability to provide more. Can I alter things and inform you of your everything changed with inquiry and shift if you start asking more sensible questions? Queries that you're offering chances for which they were unaware existed. You're arguing against your beliefs that are putting your boundaries as if you've been walking around with a light and everything you've suddenly turned on a spotlight. Let me explain. I had a friend, Tom, as we would call him, was always, in regards to his job, why does my supervisor sign number 1? You respond differently to setbacks. Sorry I didn't get promoted. But then one day he changed his questions, started looking for methods to raise my worth to my company. How can I improve my skills? And you know of what took place within 6 months. He was given a promotion after having dreams, which is why calling for better. Such power questions aren't just about the answers you get, are regarding the person you wind up with in the midst. Instead than searching for such answers, let's move on to the second indicator that you're feeling nervous more often now. Jim, I see what you're thinking. How can being uncomfortable might be a sign of... Let me tell you a little bit about comfort is the enemy of development progress. Even when you're always relaxed, you're not growing is as simple as the development that takes place close. The area's perimeter is outside of your zone of comfort where you feel at ease. Despite your reservations, you feel a bit nervous. Proceed. That's where the magic lies. Happens. Think about it this way when going there doesn't make you stronger. The gym with weights that you are able to. Lifting weights is easy and doesn't need any stronger. That challenges you and helps you develop your... The same is true for muscular tension and burn for personal development. I remember from the starting when I gave public speeches, my speech would shake and my hands would sweat and crackle. Quiver found it uncomfortable to talk at the very least, but I continued to agree to that discomfort because I realized it meant that I was growing myself by extending myself. And this is the beautiful... What used to make you uncomfortable now turns out to be your new normal. You're dealing with more challenges than previously frightening you, now exciting Sarah. One of my old students was terrified of public speaking. The straightforward thinking of standing in front of made her feel sick to her stomach. Yet she decided to face the fact that she had joined a sign number 2. The people in your social circle are changing. The local toast club is terrified The Masters Club meeting was a difficulty, but she kept showing up, placing oneself in that uncomfortable circumstances a year later, and Sarah wasn't only comfortable talking. In front of large audiences, she was really enjoying herself. She had changed into her biggest transformation of her anxiety into a power, which is the ability to receive pain. So if you're experiencing any situations that offer you a little apprehension and uneasiness, I'm impressed that you're showing your boundaries. It shows that you're... To elaborate, let's talk about the third sign that the people in your influence circle are. Before I changed, you heard me say it. And you are the 5 once again. Individuals with whom you spend the most time on most of the time on average with your beliefs are influenced by your social circle, ideas and objectives, so that when it's clear that the circle starts to alter. Proof that you're growing this change is now possible, and you could find oneself in 2 ways. starting with an inclined naturally to those who inspire, those who encourage you to become better individuals in your preferred place, which is a beautiful thing. To imply that you're lowering your standards, but this coin has additional dimensions, may also indicate that some of your life's relationships are starting to wane. People who wanted to play a big role, you may not have enough room for your just putting life into your new path. Yes, it's a typical element of development that I remember from the starting my journey of self-development. One of my old friends didn't understand, "Jim, why are you reading everything?" They would inquire, "Why are you going?" Should read any book they were feeling at comfort throughout these courses. I created these with my past self and my growth uneasy, yet at the same time I was getting to know new people who were as committed to progress as I was. People who would discuss ideas that might cause me to reconsider my presumptions, and gradually, but my network of influence gradually changed. However, I'm not suggesting you must refrain from cutting individuals from your life, but you should carefully consider who the "I didn't spend the time you spent with Jim Rohn, just ended up being who I am." Deliberately sought out mentors and friends who would support my growth. Sign number 3, you've improved your discipline. I had Amir once, let's call him that, but Mike's aspirations were surrounded by happy people with whom they would mediocrely spend their weekends. Festivities, but Mike wanted to build. It was an unending war for a company, for him, but thereafter Mike determined that he started attending social events and joining organizations led by, he searched for a successful mastermind. Entrepreneurs have looked for their you, and the council are aware of his complete. The world changed because of what occurred in his enlarged network of opportunities were established via connections. He was without knowing that they offered assistance for his aspirations, provided him with opportunities, and urged him to perform at his best. In less than 2 years, Mike had started a thriving business, and the intriguing something some of his old friends observed his achievements and were inspired to make changes to Mike's personal growth had an influence on life. Therefore, think about do you have persons in your circle of impact? Those around you who encourage and challenge you, people support your goals. Otherwise, perhaps it's time to expand your circle. Let's go right on to the 4th. Proof that you're more aware of "I can almost hear your faults." You understand, Jim? I'm curious how I may be being more aware of my flaws let me explain the strength thing. Self-awareness is the foundation of everything. Development, you are unable to fix what you don't acknowledge that you watch as you grow when you learn that you start. To see oneself more clearly, it has been like washing a mirror. After being vague for years, you suddenly can see any blemishes and stains, and sure, at first that may be the case, but uncomfortable, it's also really strong. Because when you see your own shortcomings, you may start working. You can change your weaknesses on them, which are comparable to having a map of your own strengths, conscious of your whereabouts, and you recognize where you need to go. I remember in my early days at the organization, I thought I recognized everything that was propelled by youth. Sign number 4, your objectives are expanding and rather arrogant, to be honest, although when I matured and acquired understanding from my mentors and my first experiences with examine each area where I needed to improve, realized that I wasn't as skilled at dealing with people as I thought. I had noticed my communication skills, necessary enhancement, and that understanding. As you are aware, the first stage of improvement, I had a customer once. Lisa was a talented individual, artist, but struggled to get a surviving off of her creations while we first started working together. She had everything and everyone responsible for due of her failure. The market was in the galleries. Overloaded and biased individuals just didn't appreciate painting with excellence, but as Lisa evolved and learned about her, started to see things in a new way, She found that although her artistic skills were outstanding in the commercial world and she didn't have the requisite abilities, how much to charge for mark itself, her work, how to connect with people in the art world. Because you know what Lisa has done with, she acknowledged that knowledge and took lessons at the firm where she learned. Her marketing expertise helped her networking skills, and progressively increasing, her career gradually started to take. That is the power of self-awareness, is not a prerequisite for be critical of your flaws. It's about being able to see yourself so that you may become the maximum self-expression. Thus, if you arise when you acknowledge your shortcomings, more relish it, as it shows that the ability to perceive oneself is explained the indication of growth, and that clarity is the first step towards achieving POS optimism. So let's talk about the sixth sign that your behavior is becoming more. Taking calculated risks is a vital element of growth. However, I'm not talking about what I'm creating. Here, reckless and hasty judgments are being discussed. The kinds of regulated hazards that have risks that result in your hands sweater much, yet you continue to eat them since you've finished your sign number 5. Better opportunities. Come your way assignments, and you trust the opportunities honor you're given when your ability to assess risks improves. Better still, you start to realize opportunities that others do not, obstacles. You have the courage to go outside of your comfort zone, but you do it wisely. I remember when I first started, each decision I made for my business seemed to be a serious risk. If I choose to purchase this inventory, do I need to hire this person? Entering this new market was necessary, frightening, but as I gained experience and knowledge, I enhanced my ability to assess these risks. I found that gather information to assess. I trust the advantages and disadvantages. What my gut tells me about my risk-taking, more intelligent, considerate, and ultimately more prosperous. I previously had a student, Let's David, as he is known, had a reliable employment in a big company, was very paid, but he wasn't happy with it, dreamt of starting his own business. Yet the notion of leaving his secure job frightened him for years. David stayed in his zone of comfort, yet as he grew older, he found that he started to see things differently than he realized, that while he felt safe in his job, really posed a higher danger. Over time, he was endangering his joy by pursuing his dreams' potential. So David started to take calculated opportunities and retained his position. He started by spending time at his side. Company by carefully overseeing his money while gaining knowledge as he matured his skills, his customer, and his network basis, and at the right time when he had downplayed the threat to the as much as possible, David created the choice to resign from his position in order to focus on his business. Full-time was, even if it was scary, it still is. Yes, it is a calculated risk that David was prepared, and his company is doing well at the moment, but more importantly, David is happy that he is. He started enjoying life to the fullest by gaining knowledge about calculated risk. Consequently, if you find yourself sign number 6, you give your development. More thought, increased prudence while taking risks if you're doing a wise move by going outdoors. Strategic techniques outside of your comfort zone of celebration is a clear sign of that you're growing. Therefore, let's go on to the last and 6th sign, that your greater comprehension of this process may seem contradictory. In the end, when we think about growth, we often take into account the swift outcomes. Speed comes but real. Sustained growth is time-consuming and one of the most clear signs that you're maturing. When you start to appreciate and acknowledge what you see as we start our personal growth path, that we often want for results that we read a reserve for the night and wait for our attending a life-altering event, will immediately presentation with the expectation that awaken the next day as a complete new person. But that's not how progress leads to true development. is a procedure that includes ongoing persistent effort for a long time. It is time to sow seeds today. That will provide outcomes in a few months or even years later. As you become older, you start to understand that you become more patient with both alone and via the process of learning how to find joy in little triumphs along the road, while understanding that they are all a component of the greater picture. I remember from my early days of my speaking career's objective was I would become into Tony Robbins overnight. Get annoyed if I don't notice it, right away results when my audience wasn't immediately altered by what I said. But as I grew older, I learned to value the process. I discovered that every speech and discussion was a chance to grow and change. I became patient with both you and my own growth. Understand how patience accelerated my development. I had a customer before, let us call them. Rachel was a motivated person who works hard, yet she also started a new project with passion and impatience. But if she saw any, she would immediately give up. We worked together to cultivate patience in order to understand the Rachel's growth. Process wasn't, she had to just fight her instincts. Inclination, for instance, to be satisfied. But Rachel started to adjust gradually. Conclusion and concluding remarks, learned how to establish long-term goals and to appreciate the little. She was pushing things in their direction, gained the self-control necessary to carry on, even when she didn't have her eyes on the screen results, and you knew what it required. As it happened, Rachel started to the abilities she never thought she would have built a successful company over time, but with consistent effort over time. She strengthened her relationships by allowing them time to grow, and despite Rachel's growing tolerance, just help her go to her goals. It also provided her with peace of mind. She wasn't always irritated by the difference between her present place and the place she wanted to go instead. She learned to value the journey, so if you find out that if you're less, you're becoming, you'll be more irritated. Patient with a slow improvement and greater appreciation for the process that was followed, it's clear evidence that let's take a step back and look at all 6 of these signs at once. You're asking more insightful inquiries now, can give you a greater sense of usually uncomfortable in the area of shifting influence, makes you more. Being aware of your flaws, you're taking more calculated risks, makes you more forgiveness of the process. These signs may not be very obvious, yet may not be immediately obvious to others, yet they serve as powerful indicators of really sustainable. You see firsthand. Making significant changes is not what progress is all about. It goes beyond just being different. Person, which is what little regular changes that accumulate throughout time. It's about gradually raising your one step at a time, in the comfort zone, progressively raising your requirements, but gradually, both for the advantage of both you and those around you oneself, in terms of producing the self-awareness to recognize your flaws as permanent limitations. However, as areas for improvement, it's about building the brave to place a bet on and take measured chances yourself. And maybe most importantly, it includes developing the patience and perseverance in adhering to the protocol, even when progress seems to be now, while you sit there, slow down everything. Jim, it sounds amazing, but how can I really implement this in my life, please? I'm glad you inquired, and I'll provide some feasible steps you may take to cultivate these development indicators. In your personal life, let's first talk about the better query questions. This is a feature that you may develop with practice, starting by use extreme caution while making queries. Yourself throughout the day when you face a problem, instead of considering it's because I'm having this experience. Instead of asking why, try asking what. Is there anything I can learn from this? Can I ask? How can I improve my skills to, if at all feasible, develop this? The practice of questioning your assumptions when you find out if you think something isn't conceivable, then inquire what would occur if it were possible to appear, must be open inquiries of this kind, open up new channels, and motivate you to think of fresh methods to feel more uncomfortable right now. Normally this one requires courage, but it's committing to doing one thing, worth it because the thing that scares you every day need not be big. It can be an attempt, something fresh and raising your voice in having a conversation or meeting. Pastime, the secret with an unidentified person, is to gradually make you more comfortable zone, while remembering that the goal isn't the purpose to eliminate pain, add comfort in the face of discomfort. Recognize that feeling of anxiousness as an evidence that you're growing in. Regarding changing your behavior, be intentional regarding your sphere of influence, the people you spend time with. Search for mentors and classmates who inspire you, who urge you to get well. This might suggest joining organizations. For experts, taking part in networking events, or just reaching out to the people you have a severe concern for coffee, and being conscious at the same time of relationships that could be holding you back. Cutting your back is not necessary. People in your life, but you must limit the amount of time spent with those who don't support the growth of currently. Self-awareness is a lifelong adventure. However, there are several actions you can take to speed up the procedure by keeping a diary to document your opinions on the day that you respond, that the decisions you make need input from people whose personality tests you can trust. The more you learn, the more you comprehend. You yourself. You can improve your capacity for taking measurable hazards, start off modest, and grow. You're gaining muscle and taking a gamble, slowly before taking a risk, and complete your assignment and take notes, taking into consideration the potential outcomes. Maintain the vision and have a backup plan, not to eliminate risk, but to make wise and informed decisions. And finally, this could be the hardest part of growing. A single patient for a lot of us, but it's crucial, starting with the establishment of long-term goals, after which they are separated into smaller, easier-to-manage measures to honor your progress along the way, no matter how trivial seem, to develop consciousness and become into in the present moment instead, than always focusing on the final outcome. And each master began as a novice. Give yourself permission to begin starting as a beginner, to make mistakes in order to learn and grow at your own pace. Remember that development is not a destination, it's an adventure of a lifetime. The process of becoming and being recognized is first. These welcome symbols things and coming to the conscious choice to grow every day. So when you leave now, I want you to make a commitment to oneself, a commitment to growth. A commitment to becoming the best version of the oneself from the moment you commit. In terms of your own growth, you're not just changing, you're changing your life world. Thank you for your time, and pay attention now. Then get out to the best is yet to come as you grow up and create. It occurs with a reincarnation of you.